Welcome down to my 9-foot homemade oak bar. Pour yourself a cold one. You are listening to Bucs in the Basement. My name's Chris, and Craig here is the biggest Pirates fan you'll ever meet. Let's talk Pirates baseball now. Welcome to Bucs in the Basement.
Now I see the changes in this town. They change, they say one thing, but then the next day it's different. They change, but they don't know what they want. All they do is change. Going left, going right, travel day, travel night. That's where we'll go. No excuses, no goodbyes, no one cries, no one lies. We'll never know.
And bellying up to the 9-foot homemade oak bar or my basement right now because I'm drinking some coffee. It's early. Always talking Buccos. Talked Buccos for about a half an hour before we even recorded this, which was a good time. Maybe we'll talk about some of that stuff. Maybe we won't. But there is a ton of stuff to talk about with the Pirates sitting 44-48, 3 games out of the wild card. Lost a tough one in Milwaukee last night. So are the Pirates teetering between contending and pretending? It's different every day. Bringing in for the first time, and this is not nepotism. This is not a Bronny James situation whatsoever. I am bringing in JT Toth. I'm Craig Toth. He's JT Toth. Maybe related, maybe not. We're not sure at all. From Draft Nation to talk everything Pittsburgh Pirates, the draft coming up, the All-Star game coming up, conflicting reports coming out of 115 Federal. JT, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Great to be with another Toth, man. About 10 years ago, I probably knew about 3 Toths other than my family, if that. Now I know a ton of them, so it's crazy.
Running into Toss every time you turn around, man. But yeah, from Draft Nation, you guys are doing a lot of great work over there, not only on, Major League Baseball, but also NFL, NHL, NBA. I mean, everything. You guys are keeping yourselves busy. Today, we're going to be talking straight Pirates. And the first thing I want to get into that we were kind of talking about before the show is all these rumors that are coming out, these hot takes. You have John Parado coming out saying that the front office is furious. DK comes back out and says, I'm not going to tell you, nonfiction. And then you have Paul Zeiss with the Taylor Ward. It's getting to the finish line. And Robert Murray, MLB Insider, comes out and says that wasn't true. Said that DK's rumor about Jared Jones and Jackson Holiday was not true. I mean, dude, there is just so much stuff that we are already mad enough as Pirates fans. Are they just trying to make us more mad, dude?
Yeah, this last week, I mean, the Parada thing really shocked me the way it came out, and I would love to know if it was true and who in the front office is upset. It makes you wonder how high it goes. Was it Charrington? I mean, when your owner comes out and says, "Yeah, we're going to make the trades we need to make," and then he supposedly behind closed doors told them we're not adding money, that puts a lot of pressure on your GM. To me, it was very conspicuous how that rumor came out, and then the next day, oh, we're getting Taylor Ward. It's going to go down. And it made you, the first thing I thought was, oh, wow, Nutting probably said, hey, we gotta do something now, make the appease the fans. And the more I read about that as well, that was just a rumor. I mean, he had Peguero and a pitcher I saw was the two guys going, and I don't think anything is gonna happen. I mean, I think the Pirates are going to make some moves, but I think the one rumor that I do think is true is that I think Aroldis Chapman, because of his $10.5 million salary, will be part of a deal when we bring a hitter back, so that the money doesn't add up. I mean, it's sort of sad. I mean, I'm a guy that always sticks up for Nutting in the Pirates. I always say our prospects, but I mean, we're to that point now. And I wrote an article the other day about it. Our young pitchers, you got to take advantage. We know Paul Skeens 99% ain't gonna re-sign here. There's no way. Take advantage of the time you got with Paul Skeens and try to win. And this year's team, I mean, why not? I mean, go to a wild card and you have to face Skeens, Jones, and if you go game 3, Keller or Keller in game 2. I mean, that's tough. That's what we always wanted as a Pirate fan. We went against Bumgartner, Arrieta back in the day because that was a 1-game thing. Now it's a 3-game thing. We got 3 great pitchers. I don't get what the team is doing. I mean, anybody can see that our hitting is very, very, very hit or miss. Lately, we had a little bit of hits, but I mean, it's crazy that some of the stats you see about the Pirate hitters. They're the only team in Major League Baseball that hit 5 or more homers 3 times. It's crazy for a team that's it's amazing. Like never would think that this team would hit 7 homers and then 5 uh 4 days later, 5 days later. So it's amazing to me. But I try not to get too involved in these things, but I do believe there's some turmoil in the front office. I think that part of it's true. I think from knowing Parada, I think that he had something. Someone was whispering something in his ear. So
Yeah, and I don't doubt that just because I mean we even saw during the offseason that, Bob Nutting sits down with Jason Mackey and talks about there's money to add, and then the guy that you mentioned, Aroldis Chapman, is signed, almost immediately after that. It was like, okay,
mhm.
this article dropped, and then all of a sudden, Aroldis Chapman is signed for an outrageous amount of money. I mean, $10.5 million. He got like, I think it was like 3.5 or something like that from the Royals last year before he was traded to Texas. And yeah, I mean, it just kind of seems like very crazy. I do think that there is something that is going to happen. With Chapman, I mean, I think a lot of that. I talked to John Wayner yesterday and was talking about. I think some of that depends on Ryan Barucki's health because you do need like a late inning, like lefty
Lefty.
type thing. So if he can be healthy, you can move on from Chapman. But I just don't see. I mean, Chapman is like that perfect like flip candidate because, like you said, number one is the $10.5 million, and then number two is just that if we're kind of teetering. I have teetering between pretending and contending as the title of this podcast here. Um, it doesn't make much sense to keep him for that entire time. The only thing that I would say is that okay, if we're going to trade Chapman to somebody, it's going to be somebody who is a contender, because they're going to need that lockdown end. And what type of player are they going to be willing to give back? Coming back, I know that the Royals did get Cole Reagans, who they slotted, kind of right into their rotation. So you're going to have to be trading to a team that has like a overabundance of riches that you have, maybe a guy who's, blocked in AAA, an outfielder, and then maybe a pitcher or something. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's gonna be a lot that, you know, Charrington have to kind of, I mean, wiggle around, man, because I think if it could be that there is not a lot of money, but if Chapman's money comes off the books, then is that where that money comes from? Do you know what I mean?
No, I do. I agree with that. And I think the fact is, I think what Parada said about they don't want to add money. I think that's true, and I think that the Chapman is part of the deal. But I do like the Taylor Ward rumor. I had no problem with it. I mean, 14 homers, guy that can come in and I mean, I've been talking about this for 2 years now. I talked about it when we passed on Dylan Cruz, even, which I'm happy with Paul Skeens. I'm not gonna say I'm not happy with Paul Skeens, but at the time I was like, look at our organization. We have some pitching. We have nothing in the outfield. We have Lonnie White. Um, like I said earlier, before we got on, Mitch Jebb supposedly can get moved to like a center field position, but otherwise, I mean, Polanco way further down. We have needs for outfield. Our outfield, I mean, Joshua Palacios is a breath of fresh air. That's how bad our outfield's been. That a guy like that, and why did it take so long for a guy that was a spark plug last year? And he saw what he could do for a team, and he's no more than a bench player. Don't get me wrong, but a guy like that, I'd rather have than, he's a guy that tries and plays hard every day. He's a guy that I like in the lineup. I think I felt bad for Oliveras getting sent down. Michael A. Taylor just lost at the plate. I think it's one of the most amazing things that he had 21 homers last year somehow. I have no idea where that came from, but great glove like we talked about with Triolo too. Like we have guys that can play the field, but they just can't hit. And this team needs hitters. I mean, if this team wants to go anywhere this year, or at least contend, and they owe it. I hate to say the phrase, they owe it to the fans. With this pitching staff, they owe it to try to win with Paul Skeens. I mean, I don't two wild card teams made the World Series last year. I'm not saying the Pirates have that kind of talent, but I'm just saying you don't want to play the Pirates in a 3-game series. You ask anybody, I mean, you don't want to go against Skeens, Jones, and Keller, or whatever order they put them in at that point. So the team's got a lot of question marks, but they it I think this is why we have this podcast. All these questions. There's so many questions. Like there really is. I mean, but the answer to one question on there at the beginning, the conflicting reports and the buyers, we have to be buyers, man. We got to be buyers. But like we
Yeah,
talked about, I think we're buyers and sellers. I do think that Chapman is part of the deal. So I think that we sort of skimmer down the middle of that line a little bit.
yeah, and the tough part here is that right now you have the Jones injury, you have the Bailey Falter injury, and you could see that with Falter there was like some stuff going on, even in some starts before that, that there maybe had been something lingering, and he's not like a obviously like an answer. He's not the Skeens, he's not the Jones, he's not the Keller, but if he's like
Great
your
number
fifth
four.
guy, then
Yeah,
yeah, and you
I
feel
like
good
it.
about that. But what they've done with like Luis Ortiz, and brought him back in there, Priester, uh, I believe is a guy that, I mean, he could be like you got a bunch of, you got your top three, and then you got a bunch of guys you could fill in that 4 and 5.
Hmm.
And then you talk about the outfield. You have Brian Reynolds, who's going to be your consummate professional and who is going to be, your all star. He's going to be your ball player in the outfield. But then you have a bunch of fourth outfielders and bench pieces filling that out. So yeah, even like with the Joshua Palacios, I mean, I know he came into the year injured, took a little while to work back from that, but once he got back and healthy, you knew what you had. Just bring him up, and he is a little bit of a spark plug, but he is just another one of those bench
Yeah.
pieces, fourth outfielder type guy.
Mhm.
You mentioned Jared Triolo; he's your utility man, but more of a bench guy. Michael A. Taylor, man, the one thing I did look at, and I keep on bringing it back to it, is that he had 21 home runs last year. Um, if you look on Statcast and you can go and you can break it down, and it does like expected home runs by ballpark. If he played every single game in PNC Park last year, he would have had 11 home runs. But man, I still, even at that point in time when I talked about that when they signed him, man, you expected more
Mm.
than this. I still expected maybe 8 to 10 home runs from him. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
and dude, and you're getting like a 4 for 4 night, and you're thinking, okay, maybe he's gonna break back out, and then you get an 0 for 3 night where he strikes out like twice, dude. It's been crazy. But like the next thing that was on there is the buyers and sellers, and like you said, I think they can do both. I mean, I think they would like to sell, Martin Perez if they could. Obviously, had a rough outing last night after he's been like kind of up and down as well.
Mhm.
I think they were hoping to maybe sell Marco Gonzalez, but I don't know if he's going to, beef up enough innings before the trade deadline. He may be like a toss in piece there. But yeah, I mean, man, you have to do something to improve this team. And I think it has to be in the outfield.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, you look at the prospects in the organization, and not even just the prospects, but on, like you said, on the team right now. I mean, Sawinski shouldn't be a starter in the league right now. Oliveris has got sent down. Michael A. Taylor, like you said, Pilates. I mean, they are. We have one outfielder. I mean, McCutcheon don't play the outfield really anymore, so he's a DH. So, I mean, we basically have one legit outfielder on this team, and it's been like this since the beginning of the year. I mean, like you said, I was hoping big things for Michael Way Taylor. I was hoping that I actually liked the Oliveris move at the time. I was like, this guy was one of them guys that sort of never really got a fair shot, like a big shot, and he never really came through as well. Even though I don't think they gave him consistent at bats, so either. Um, they got to make a move for an outfielder. I mean, Taylor Ward's a start. I think the Luis Roberts stuff is like it's just a total, hey, he's on the block, and then you have people to just make up trades with the Pirates, and that ain't never gonna happen. But there's definitely outfielders out there for the taking. I mean, De La Cruz in Miami. I don't know what it would take to get him. Um, But like I said in my article about Charrington, he's like a little kid collecting baseball cards. Like you got to somehow give 3 of your decent cards away to get one good card that's gonna to help you out now. And I think he's just afraid to lose prospects. I mean, I don't know if it uh, the Pirate way is scary because, like you already mentioned, they signed Chapman the day after he talked about adding money. Remember the Archer trade was right after a thing about, hey, we're gonna be active this year and make one of the worst trades in baseball history. That turned out to be not quite as bad because of the Austin Meadows situation, but still a bad trade. And then you got this thing that just happened with the news. I got worried, like, oh no, we're gonna, is nothing gonna force Charrington to pull a gun on something that maybe we shouldn't do, but just because he wants to shut up the rumors. So, but the Taylor Ward one didn't bother me. I thought that was a legit. I thought it was a legit. It would have been a legit trade. I have no problem giving up Piguero. And if we give up you know, a C or a C plus prospect pitcher for Taylor Ward, you got him for a couple years, but but I agree with you. I think we're gonna buy, but we're gonna sell. I think we're gonna try to get rid of some of the salary. I think now that Rowdy's hitting, I think we're gonna hold on. I hope we hold on to him because I mean our lineup's so bare we can't give up anything right now, uh, hitting wise. But like you said, I agree with the Martin Perez. I think Gonzalez could be a chip. Um, and let's not forget, for this team to go anywhere either, do you really trust the bullpen? I mean, do you trust Ryder Ryan and some of these young guys? I mean, if you give up Chapman, I know Chapman's been hit or miss this year, but he's still a guy that when he's on, he's gonna shut it down for you. Um, I think the bullpen's another question mark. So I think outfield bullpen are the two things you really got to look at, and then it depends on Falter. If Falter's out for a while, you can't have 4 and 5 be, like Ortiz at 4, and then I hate how they keep running these relief starts and stuff. They drive me insane. I mean, especially in a big series, it's like we just win a game, and all of a sudden, like Mladzinski's starting the next game. You're like, oh man, like, and we were winning them for a couple. We won like a couple in a row there because Ortiz bailed us out with big middle innings, but to answer the question, we got to be buyers. I mean, if this team's gonna take advantage of having a Paul Skeens, you got to do whatever you can each year, and I think that's gonna be the thing that Nunning's gonna have to step up and gonna have to add some money. 86 million just nowadays is just it's a joke. I mean, it really is. I mean, I get Oakland's being low because they're going through a change and moving, and I guarantee going into next year, I bet you Oakland is up over 100 million easily.
If you ever see me out and about in Pittsburgh, you will always recognize me, and not just because of the white beard, but also because the Y that is always on top of my head, the hat I always wear. The Yins brand, proud partners with Bucs in the Basement. 3 dynasties, 1 brand, Yins. Finally, 1 brand to rep all black and gold. Follow at Shop Yins for new merch drops and giveaways. Order online at www.shopyins, the emphasis on the 2 Z's, high quality comfort, lightweight materials, a new modern look for the black and gold. Made for Yins by a Yinzer.
Chris and I have talked about a million times about what team we should be like, and even with a team like the Tampa Bay Rays, they do spend at times when they need to. I mean, a lot of times it doesn't it's like, oh well, the cheap Rays, but then they go out and they I remember signing Charlie Morton because they had a hole and they gave him a decent amount of money. So they will make that kind of stuff happen, and for the Pirates to then take that $10.5 million and say we're going to do Aroldis Chapman, that to me was kind of weird. But the bullpen, yeah, because you have David Bednar, who when he's on is one of the best relievers and one of the best closers in the game, but honestly, he has a back issue.
Mhm.
And I always mention I'm not a finely tuned athlete, but I have a back issue, and there's times where like it just comes and goes, and it's always going to be a problem. Do you know what I mean? The
Mhm.
same thing with Brian Hayes. Somebody I saw out there said, "Oh, well, Brian just needs to go get surgery." Well, not every back issue, needs surgery and can be corrected by surgery. Some of it is just, pain management and different stuff like that. And I think that what we're seeing with Brian Hayes at this point in time is that, yes, I believe that, he did get some help, from John Nunnally. But I also believe he got some help from Andy Haynes before that. But he also went on a tear after he was out for a month and rested his back for a month and
Mhm.
got right. And now he went out, for a portion of the season. And I think that because of underperformances by other players, he had to come back quicker than he needed to, or maybe could have, because man, he's just, you can't have Brian Hayes be under 600 in his OPS and,
Mhm.
and be a competitive team. Like I've always said, if he is even close to league average, which he's not even close at this point in time, you can forgive that because of the defense. Well, even now, I even looked, is the defense is not as high as it was last year, which was out of this world. So you have him not as good as he was last year defensively, and then falling off the cliff offensively, and him, you have to put him at like 7, 8, 9 in the lineup. Well, you already have 3 or 4 other guys on the team that
It's
should
the
be hitting
long, yeah.
7, 8, 9. So
Mhm.
it's like, okay, well, we'll put him 7, 8, 9. Well, then who are you moving up to 6? Do you know what I mean?
I agree. He's one of the harder players to watch, and I understand his back does hurt because like there's times you can tell too. I mean, he doesn't run out a lot of balls anymore. I mean, he literally, and that's one thing that drives me nuts watching the games is like even O'Neal Cruz sometimes with his speed, I watch him sometimes just lollygag down the line. But Hayes is a guy that doesn't show much emotion. So to me, he's almost looks like he is in pain. He's never shows an up, never gets down, just very he almost looks like he's going through the motions at times hitting, and it's and let's also say too, I don't know what the stat is on it, but he hits a lot of atom balls. I mean, a lot of line drives at people. Even in the outfield, he's not hitting gap shots, but he's hitting liners right at the center fielder, right at the left fielder. Um, but I agree. I mean, he's the guy. I mean, they booed Rowdy Tellez for how long, and this is the guy that literally the money he gets and his like I said, his defense is a little off this year. They may need to, and I know people in Pittsburgh will get mad, but they may need to, like you just said, just shut him down for a month. Like, hey, we said him, you should have shut him down for July. You already had the All Star break. Hey, man, we're gonna put you on the IL. Come back in August. Maybe he gives you that, like you said, like last year. Last year's second half, it was unbelievable. Everything he hit was a rocket to the gap. I mean, he was a doubles machine, and maybe that's part of the reason his defense is a little off this year as well. I mean, you know how that is. I mean, I have a sore back too. I mean, I have had spine issues in that, and I lay down a certain way and get up. I walk like a question mark for the first 10 steps before I can pop back up. And I know as a guy that's played baseball, if your back's hurting at all, try throwing a ball from third to first, and you got like a split second to get a guy out. And that's I could see it in him. I could tell there's something wrong, and maybe that's the thing we do. Go out and get maybe go out and get a guy even for this year, like a step up from Chiola with the bat, and try to bring a guy like that and let Hayes rest up. I mean, that could be another option. I mean, I know people in Pittsburgh will be like, "Oh, he's hurt again." I see that all the time on Twitter. Oh, he's don't worry, Hayes will be hurt again. I'm like, he's hurt already. Like he's not
He's
hurt
playing
again.
hurt.
Yeah, he's been hurt. So that might be an option there too. And to get back to your buyers and sellers, the other thing we didn't even mention, like, are the Pirates going to shut Skeens or Jones down late in the year? Um, they're very even though he threw 107 pitches the other day, and that sort of like set me for a loop. Like maybe Skeens is one of them guys that's like, look, man, I'm not going to get hurt. I'm a guy that's just pitch me the rest of the year. But that's the other thing I worry about is Jones going to get set down at the end of the year, and that's going to be a way management's going to be like, we're not going to be buyers yet this year because these guys got to still get their arms. There's a lot of questions, man. There really is, and it's going to come down to how the Pirates feel. And 3 games out of the wild card, you got to go for it, man. three
Yep.
wild card spots. And with the bats, when the bats get hot, you see what our team is like. Our pitching's unbelievable. You turn on a Pirate game, there's a 90% chance it's 0-0 fourth, fifth inning, like 0-0 fourth, fifth inning. And people always, our batting sucks. But look at our pitching. It's 0-0 fourth or fifth inning every game. Then teams start to put runs up. So it's crazy. This team is one of the most unique teams I remember watching in a long time because we get great pitching and our hitting just leaves us for weeks at a time. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think with like Jones out right now, Jones they're saying is out for to a month and a half. It's like, okay, well then when he comes back, are we talking about maybe Skeens not being there? Like you're
That's what I'm
saying
worried about too, man.
with like the inning management and stuff. And I know it's their goal. They say it's their goal to have them, both be there for the end of the season. Well, we all have goals, and sometimes those aren't achieved. But I mean, I did bring somebody on who is from Draft Nation, and we haven't even touched on the draft yet. But it's going to be in conjunction. They have the big, Major League Baseball thing now. We have Brian Reynolds as an All Star, Paul Skeens as an All Star, in discussions for possibly starting the game. I know everybody in Pittsburgh wants to see him start the game and go up against the best hitters in the American League. But with the draft, us drafting ninth, it's a weird spot to be in, man. Every single time I see a mock draft come out, I just had Joe Doyle on. Before we jumped on here, we talked about Jonathan Mayo. He just put out another mock draft again today, and it's another different player that is being rumored to the Pirates. This time it's Tibbs. Before it was JJ Weatherholt. Before that it was a couple high school bats. But man, I mean, it's all going to depend on how we're actually like kind of waiting to see what happens in front of us. I don't know if they Pirates even have their mind made up yet.
I don't think they do. And I always tell people, like, this is the one draft I wish the Pirates had their 99, 100 loss season the year before, because the first basemen are talented, very talented at the top of this draft. Condon from Georgia, Caglianone from Florida. Then you got that Nick Kurtz, who Kurtz has a possibility of dropping to the Pirates. But the Pirates have never had a good first. It's been a long time since we've had a first baseman we can consider, since Josh Bell or even before that. But our first baseman in this organization has been rough for years. That this is the one year that I would love to be picking third or fourth. I think we'd have a better chance. But we just talked about it, man. I'm hoping the guy that I want more than anybody, and I think he's been rumored here a couple times. He had an injury last year, of course, but that Braden Montgomery from A&M, legit outfielder. He's probably closer to Major League Baseball than any of the other outfielders, including Tibbs. I'm not a real big Tibbs guy. Tibbs guy is more of a signing kind of guy, from what I'm gathering. He'll sign at a lower. He'll be a lower first round signing. So the Pirates like guys like that, because if they do it right, they get a couple. Like they did that year with Bubba Chandler, and that you add money to your second and third round picks. But I want Braden Montgomery. That's the guy that I want. I want an outfielder. Um, the young kid too. I don't mind Connor Griffin. He could play short. He could play outfield. He does a little bit of both. But he's going to be years away. He's going to take. He's not going to. He might just be here right before Skeens is about to go, kind of thing. So I'm looking at what we need, and I know and MLB drafts are weird because it ain't like the NFL where, hey, we got no cornerbacks. We got to get a cornerback. You can almost tell what team's going to go get a cornerback. With baseball, you take the best. You could take a pitcher, even though we got tons of pitchers in the organization, and they could take a starting pitcher at that point in the draft as well. But I hope, for my mind, because I'm so tired of us not having good. I mean, we tried with Swaggerty. Our outfield draft picks haven't been real good since McCutcheon. I mean, they've been, I like Meadows. He had mental issues, but you can't help that. We had Swaggerty at the time. I thought was a good choice. That kid had a lot of pop and energy, and he had some issues with his wife, and just his playing days were just never really put it together. So I'm hoping, man, it's an outfielder. But like I said, MLB draft, we we could take a picture, save some money somehow, and then maybe take an outfielder and that compensatory pick or second round or whatever. So um, the answer to your question, so it's a unique draft because there's four first basemen that I would love to have. Um, any of the Condon, which he's going to be gone off the bat, and then you got that Nick Kurtz. Nick Kurtz from Wake Forest is a guy I wouldn't mind if he fell to 9, which I'm hearing he could. So, but like I said, I don't know what Charrington's looking at. I'm hoping he's going to try to start filling up the outfield in this organization, though.
Yeah, and it's like a weird thing because I mean Charrington for a while there it was like the more college bats like you get like a Nick Gonzalez, um, and Tamar Johnson a couple years later and you go high school and everybody was kind of
Mhm.
so it's like but here's the thing is even with that like you're saying it's like the best player that is available to you at that point in time. It's also about the rest of the draft. It's about can you because even though Henry Davis, God, that's another one I can't even get into right now. Henry Davis, man, he hits at AAA and doesn't hit at the major leagues, and we see that
Quad
very
A player.
often with players. That's why there's a name for it. It's a quad A base. You know what I mean? Like there is an
Mhm.
actual name for it. So that's one that goes there. But yeah, I mean, Braden Monk, that I had talked with Joe Doyle about that, and that's a guy that I really liked as well. Kurtz from Wake Forest. I know you don't draft for need, but like you said, man, like you got Kevin Young and you got Josh Bell,
That's
and other than
basically.
and that is like my Pirates fandom, that I remember the best. You know what I mean? I was there for 91 and 92 and 93, but I
Mhm.
was still a kid, man. I mean, I'm like I was the age that my son is right now playing little league, and I was big into baseball. But the ones where I could actually afford to go to the game and pay my own way to a ticket and go with my buddies, it was Kevin Young and Josh Bell, and then that's it, dude. It's
Yeah,
kind of crazy.
and they always seem to just. I mean, it's like the relief pitching, which the relief pitching I got used to. Like, hey, you sign two or three guys off the scrap heap if you get lucky with one or two, which we have in the past. Melanson, guys like that, you get lucky picking up a guy off a waiver wire or whatever. But first base is on a position like and you already mentioned with you're not getting much production out of your third baseman. You got to at least have one of them corner positions heat up. And thank God Telez. I actually think Roddy Telez is a better hitter than we give him credit for. I know he went through a downtime, but let's not forget you come to a new city. I mean, he's never gonna hit like he's not gonna hit 270, he's not gonna hit 30 homers anymore, but he's gonna the way he's doing now, I mean, he's hit the ball the opposite way. I think he's a better hitter than we imagined he was after that first month. I think he's closer to doing what he's doing now than being that bad of a hitter that he started off the year as. So I'm just at the point now with Skeens and that I look at the draft differently now to the point where I want a guy that comes in a year or two. Like I think Montgomery's the quickest. That's the quickest. You got to get a college back, and come up and help your team right now. And we need that. I mean, we're not going to trade for a top notch outfielder. I was a guy that was all for like dangling a Solometa or a Chandler if you get another team's legit, legit outfield. I do an outfield for a pitcher right now in our organization. I don't know if a team would do that, but I mean, I would trade a Bubba Chandler for a team that has an outfielder, just like a James Wood type, a guy that just is a stud. That we have our stud. Like, let's make a deal. Let's do this. But I just think that I haven't. How many years has it been since you've seen a team with outfielders this bad? It's been bad, man. It's like really bad right now, and not much positivity coming from that room.
No, not really, man. So I guess my last question here, because we usually try to be 30 minutes or within 30 minutes of Bucks here. Dude, is a wild card berth, is this possible, man? Is it
It,
possible?
it's definitely possible. We've seen what the bats can do if they get consistent. I think if you make a trade for a bat or two, you get Jones back. Um, I believe it is. I mean, I think this is the one year it really is. I mean, I think the National League's on a down year. This is the one year that everything's sort of working in our favor to make the playoffs. Honestly, I mean, um, I think it's definitely there. I think if you get, I'm gonna use like maybe six is the magic number. If you Milwaukee runs us and the White Sox run us and we're 5-6 games out by the break, maybe I change my tune a little bit. But 3 games is nothing. I mean, how many times have we, and recently have we dropped into a half game out or a game out? So we're in that range, man. I think there's definitely there. Um, it's going to depend on Martin Perez and if a guy like Priester can hammer down a spot, because without Jones, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because we had them three, we had three of them guys all in the same spots. They were pretty. It was amazing. I mean, they were churning through teams, even games that we weren't hitting. We were still, winning 2-1 games, 1-0 games, whatever. So it's definitely there. Do you believe it? Do you agree? You think there's a wild card? You think that?
I want to, and I do, as a fan. And like you said, 3 games out, it's not insurmountable. We saw a team that we pretty much had written off for dead in the St. Louis Cardinals go on a run and get hot. And even when they do, kind of lose some games here and there, they're holding themselves in the wild card contention. And I see that, especially with the pitching. If the hitting comes around, and you mentioned it, Tellez doesn't have to be on the tear that he's on now, but if he's just a more consistent hitter,
Mhm.
that definitely helps. Reynolds obviously, isn't gonna hit 400 for the rest of the season, but he's a consummate professional. Yeah, dude, I think it's possible. And but you said, it's like if we drop the one to Milwaukee today and then we drop a couple to the, floundering White Sox, I'm just like, man, maybe everybody above us loses as well, and we're still in it. But man, I don't know. But guys, you know what? This has been a great conversation. We're definitely going to have to do this again at some point in time.
Awesome.
For you guys that don't, please go follow JT on X. It's JT Draft Nation. Also, go follow Draft Nation for their coverage of everything. If you're into, like I said, NHL, MLB, NBA, just everything that is with the drafts and everything. Those guys are doing a great job over there. Go read his articles. JT, this was a great time, brother.
Thank you so much, Toth. I get to actually call somebody Toth because I always get called Toth. So thank you, Craig. It was a great time here.
Absolutely, man.